Welcome Retromaniac. We are receiving video evidence that a rogue element are attempting to resurrect the 8-bit wars. Patching you through to the transmission.
Hello everyone, it's Dazzy B back again, and I proudly bring you the first of my 8-bit wars Resurrection. Just very quickly, for those of you not familiar with the series, the 8-bit wars recreates some of the fanboy nostalgia of the 80s by comparing the same game over the 3 classic systems of the time to decide which version is best. In this special first episode, we take a step back to look at the hardware behind the games themselves. Which system is best equipped, at least on paper, to keep you bashing those buttons well into the small hours. After success with the ZX80 and the ZX81, British-based Sinclair Research had a vision to release the cheapest possible home colour computer and subsequently launched the ZX Spectrum in 1982. Thanks to an aggressive price point of £125 and some crafty cost-cutting measures along with massive distribution deals in major stores, Sir Clive Sinclair managed to bring high-resolution graphics, multicolours and sound, well, kind of, to the masses for the very first time. With a tiny size of only 23 by 14 centimeters and weighing less than half a kilo, in my opinion the Spectrum was a thing of beauty. It had a silky black finish with bold colourful lettering and the Spectrum rainbow emblazoned across the bottom right corner. Affectionately known as the Specky, the Spectrum was based around the popular Z80A microprocessor, which ran at a whopping 3.5 MHz. The standard model had a 48K of RAM and 16K of ROM, which contained the operating system and Sinclair BASIC, which proved to be remarkably versatile. The basic statements were entered using a keyword system where the entire word would appear at the tap of a single key. This took quite a while to get used to, and I'm still in two minds as to whether it was a good idea or not. With a graphic resolution of 256 by 192 pixels and a text mode of 32 by 24 characters, it had one of the highest resolutions for a microcomputer at the time of its release. In addition, it had 21 semi-graphic symbols as standard and also user-definable characters. The graphical capabilities were one of the greatest selling points, but this was marred by the fact that despite having 8 colours with 2 tones each, you could only specify 1 ink and 1 paper colour per 8 by 8 pixel square. Any overlapping of pixel squares containing different pairs of colours led to the infamous colour clash, causing colours to bleed into adjacent squares looking very unsightly. This gave rise to many games being programmed totally in monochrome, which is a sight very familiar to all Specky owners. In addition to colour clash, possibly the greatest drawback of the Spectrum was its sound capability. With only a single channel covering 10 octaves and one lowly beep command, its lacklustre internal speaker was only capable of basic tones and beeps, which could be very harsh on the ears. In order to bring the machine to market at the lowest possible price, Sinclair designed the much ridiculed moulded rubber keyboard containing 40 keys with colourful inscriptions. Some of the keys had up to 6 functions, which was impressive but not very practical. In terms of inputs and outputs, the Spectrum had an RF output for direct colour connection to a TV and a very versatile expansion port. All loading and saving of data had to take place using your own cassette recorder, which was connected via a microphone and headphone lead supplied with the computer. The data transfer rate of 1500 baud was surprisingly reliable and quite nippy for the time. You could load a full game in approximately 3 to 4 minutes. Despite its drawbacks, the Spectrum shook the industry to its core, forcing many competitors to reduce prices and take another look at their hardware. After only 17 months, our rubber-keyed friend had sold over 1 million units. In future years, this humble computer would be pushed way beyond its limits by some ingenious programming, and it spawned a massive software library, making it one of the most popular and best-loved computers of all time. My favourite piece of useless Spectrum trivia is that to keep prices down, Sinclair used faulty 64K chips, internally 2x32K. A link was then fitted onto the PCB in order to isolate the faulty banks and leave 48K of working memory available to the machine. Now, if you are feeling brave, then it should be technically possible to fit a working 64K chip and then remove the link to give yourself a ZX Spectrum 64K. Now, how cool would that be as a collector's item? The first in a range of home computers sold by Amstrad, the CPC or Colour Personal Computer was a brave step into the home computer market of the early 80s. Designed as a direct competitor to the Spectrum and C64, it attempted to equal or exceed the technical abilities of both machines in every area. It had a hefty price tag of £399, but that did include a colour monitor and built-in tape deck. Physically, the CPC 464 looks like an angular black box designed by cubists with a tape drive stuck onto the end. Unlike the Speccy, we now have a proper full-size mechanical keyboard that was a joy to use, but it still had the bizarre multicoloured keys seemingly endemic to microcomputers of this era. The monitor was the same colour, i.e. black, and also an equally square chunk of plastic. When turned on, the CPC went straight to a basic prompt. This was Locomotive Basic, although the text initially above the prompt claimed it to be Amstrad Basic. This was to prove itself to be an impressive programming environment in the years to come. The Amstrad was equipped with the same Z80 processor used in the Spectrum, but this time it was running faster at 4 MHz, which made it the fastest of the three systems. It had a dedicated 3-channel sound chip and noise generator, a palette of 27 colours and the ability to display 80 columns of text. Graphically, it had several different resolutions ranging from 160 by 200 pixels through to a massive 640 by 200, although you were restricted to only 2 colours in this particular mode. It had 64K RAM with 42K left for the user, 32K of ROM and even 16K of dedicated video RAM. Built into the system was a printer port, a bus port, floppy disk port, a stereo jack output, and even a joystick port that conformed to the popular 9-pin Atari D-shaped standard. On paper, this is an impressive package by Amstrad, and it was very popular in Europe, selling over 3 million units. Unfortunately, its slightly geeky image combined with the high price point meant it never quite attained the same cult status as its rivals. Also, the fact that it shared the same CPU as the Spectrum meant that many games were simply ported directly without taking advantage of the CPC's superior hardware. My favourite piece of 464 trivia is that many Spectrum games were actually coded on the CPC because they shared common hardware and the CPC had a much better keyboard. Most of the games would then be released on both systems with minimal customisation. This is why many Amstrad games are exact copies of the Spectrum equivalents. This is a real shame because properly programmed the Amstrad CPC 464 was an awesome machine. That's all we have time for in this first part, but join me in the second part where we will take a look at the Commodore 64 and decide the overall winner in this special hardware edition of the 8-Bit Wars.